And welcome back to Zanpakuto Deviate. Today we're looking over the Zanpakuto of Yumichika. Oh god, I can never pronounce his last name properly. I'm gonna try to give the old call a try here. Ayasegawa? Yumichika. And what in theory would his Zanpakuto Bankai do? We know, obviously, from this clip right here, or this image right here, what his shikai is. But what is the theory of what Kujaku is, or Azure Peacock, which is nicknamed Fuji Kujaku, Wisteria Peacock. Now, to understand what is Bankai could be, we have to understand a bit of Yumichika and what his Zanpakuto does. Yumichika is a very vain, self-interested person. He's obsessed with his own beauty and beauty in general. He does like fighting, though. There's a reason he's in the 11th, apart from being Ikaku's best friend. He's a bit more of, I don't know, prissy. He's more prissy, let's be honest. But he's not like a wimp or anything. In fact, he's actually quite capable in a fight. He's not, even though he was 5th seat throughout the majority of the series, by the end he does get the 3rd seat position. And quite frankly, he has the strength to be a lieutenant. It's just he from an aesthetic appearance, he thinks the number 3 is the most beautiful looking. In that case, Yumichika, why didn't you just become the 33rd seat? There you go, 2 3s. It's gorgeous. Or be number 8, 5 being the closest to 3 in appearance. Honestly, I would have said even 3 was a bit more closer than 5, but just because, or 3, 8 is more closer than 5, just because cut in half, it's technically get 2 3s. But anyway, I digress. His Zanpakuto very much is a reflection on his actual nature. Now, obviously, he uses a false release command in terms of bloom when he to hide what the true nature is, because he doesn't want to be outed for having a Keto type Zanpakuto in a division full of melee fighters, mostly. In that form, it obviously takes the form of the. Let me see how it's described then best. It's split. Takes the form of a. Let me see here. How do they describe the form basically in this? Runs its hand along the length of the blade as a blade as it glows. A white light transforms it into a form. It's a It's a sickle-shaped blade that can split into 4 different blades. And you know what? Honestly, even as an ability, even if we never got the reveal of what a shikai actually did, that would still be an ability. It can be just the weird sickle shape, but it then turns into more of like almost this claw-shaped fan a blade, kind of reminiscent of a peacock's feathers. Obviously, though, its real name, Kujaku, its real command is split and deviate, which, upon actually releasing it, it transforms into blades flare up and transform into a number of glowing peacock feather-like vines. These vines move to grapple and snare an opponent. Once it sufficiently subdues the opponent, the vines begin to grow energy buds that are being filled with the opponent's Ryatsu. The flower actually is used as a form of. The flowers actually use it as a form. I'm reading it verbatim at the moment. Or read it as a form of a power source, siphoning Ryatsu and the opponent emits in order to fuel their growth. When the flowers bloom, the collected Ryatsu is turned against the opponent, either seriously incapacitating them or killing them in the process. By chewing on one of the petals from the wounded, all the user's wounds are healed, the body is rejuvenated and revitalized proportionate to the amount of Ryatsu consumed. When the effect is over, the vines release the target and shrivel up. The vines then recede back into the blade. So it makes sense from a just aesthetic and a functioning representation of who Yumichika is. A very vain, very self-absorbed, very obsessed with beauty kind of individual who cares ultimately about more himself and his needs than really his opponent. So he takes what he wants to continue to be beautiful. We also know that he did in fact use this against Shuhei and beat Shuhei with it. So it's actually a very powerful technique. Now, obviously, against more powerful, if Yumichika were a captain level opponent, this would be a very powerful Bankai. Like, there'd be a good chunk of the captains that probably couldn't do anything against this. That being said, captains like Zaraki just have way too much Ryatsu, and it's just way too powerful for something like this to work. Shuhei would probably be strong enough that he'd just get away from it. Soifut's fast enough that he'd get away from Yakuya's. Zembo Zakura could probably just shred the vines. There are a number of captains who are also much stronger than this in the same level of technique. So the question is, what can we defer what his Bankai might be from this, from this effect? Because we actually know, at least from a statement when Kubo was talking about Bankais in the final arc, that he had at least considered possibly giving Yumichika a Bankai. And also Izuru. We already talked about Izuru, what his might be. So what would Yumichika's Bankai be? Well, I actually have a 2-in-1 theory. I think it would actually be cool if, like his Shikai, he has a false Bankai release. Like he has his actual Bankai, obviously, but like his Shikai, he doesn't use it, or he will hide it, so people don't know he actually has it. So I think it actually could be proportionate either to the Ryatsu he's actually using, or it could be he actually has a Bankai release command, like Bankai Bloom, and basically whatever his actual name, whatever Fuji Kujaku's actual name is, or Bankai name is, it would take on. So basically, Fuji Kujaku is Azure Peacock. Ryuru Kujaku is Fuji Kujaku is Worcestershire Peacock. I can never say it. Terra. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it's Wisteria. Oh god, this is bugging me so hard. If I heard it once, I'd probably be able to say it. Worcestershire. It's not Worcester. I know that. Anyway, that's what that is. And then Rear. I hate his Zanpakuto's name, mostly because of that freaking apostrophe. That freaking apostrophe is really getting on my nerves. Ryuru Kujaku is Azure Peacock. So it would probably be with Fuji Kujaku, the easier of the two to say. It would probably be something similar based on what I'm getting at. What with this Bankai would it be in this form? It would be something along the lines, at least of a name, as Imperial Graveyard of the Azure of the Worcestershire Peacock. But would Ryuru Kujaku's full name, instead of Azure Peacock, it would be the death. I like to think of things like the death's Azure Peacock, Death Garden of Death, or Azure Peacock's deaths, or like Death Garden of the Azure Peacock, something like that. So what in that sense do I think his false Bankai and his real Bankai would be? His false Bankai I actually liken to something we see sometimes in video games. One of the ones that really comes to mind is the Arkham City game, where Batman fought Ra's al Ghul. And in the game, he basically was like, there was where he fought Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul was basically, it was kind of like a hallucination fight. And he was like throwing out blades that are coming out of the earth. What I think would be cool in that Bankai form is that the blades pretty much disappear from the handle, from the hilt. All he's got is the handle and the hilt. But when Yumichika swings his blade, 4 giant like scythe blades just come out and start and just go right towards the opponent. Obviously, they have a certain range, but he just swings and they just suddenly climb and just explode from the ground, and slice through his opponent, and he can just do that indefinitely. It is a Bankai, though, that wouldn't work in the air, but it still would be a really awesome kind of Bankai in that sense. If that were his actual Zanpakuto, it'd still be a pretty cool Zanpakuto, I think. But with his actual Zanpakuto, with his actual Shikai, or Ryuru Kujaku, I think I got it right that time, I think what we would actually see is a large, because it's no Zanpakuto's Bankai and shikai are universally different. They follow a universal theme. I think it'd be a much larger expansion of it. But instead of like him using the blade, I think what he would do is basically go Bankai. The blade sticks the blade in the ground. The blade like stays maybe like waist high and it's sticking in the ground. All of a sudden, because it's only about it's about 5 or so actual vines. He can probably make more, but it's on average about 5 vines that come out of that. Instead, like 5, more like 10 to 20. He's basically got almost like this Eldritch-looking like tentacles coming out of the ground, and they can move independently, move at his will, react to incoming threats. So he can just grab, attack, keep opponents in range. But it can also draw spiritual energy from the environment itself. Similar a little bit to the villain in the Raid Guy arc. Not oh god, I can't remember the guy's name either. I can't remember the real guy's name, and I can't remember his mod soul's name. Like hold on one second, it's bugging me now. Similar to, and it wasn't his bond. That was the weird thing. It wasn't his Bankai we saw. It was just another form attack from his shikai. This guy. So one second here. Spiritual video games. I'd like some anime guys here. Okay. Oko Yushima, that was the name of the guy, and Kage Rosa, that was the name of the guy from that arc, who was the villain. But Oko Yushima, that is similar to kind of how he was doing that, except on a less destructive scale. More that it's just that he's absorbing all the energy out of the environment and using to his benefit, so he's constantly able to recover. He probably even has some sort of actual attack that, if he decides, he can use like the collective energy that he's sucked up and fire an energy blast or something like that. But it would probably use up most of his Bankai at that point. So that is kind of how I would liken his actual shikai, or his actual Bankai. His false Bankai is pretty much swing, blades come out of the ground, which would still be an effective strategy, but against much superior opponents, it really wouldn't do much. But against someone say like a Quincy that needs to have the Ryatsu, like against Gerard, it would actually probably be a pretty good technique against Gerard, because it's not doing any physical damage to him. It's just draining his Ryatsu, which he would have God knows how much, but it would be an effective way to do that. So ultimately, that's kind of how I see Yumichika's Bankai, if he ever had one, playing out. A false release with the giant scythe blades coming out of the ground anytime he swings, and then his actual release, which is kind of like the giant tentacly vines, almost Eldritch horror-like, coming out of the ground and just doing, working with his will, sucking out energy from the area, all that goodness. So that's my thoughts on Yumichika's Bankai. But what are your thoughts on Yumichika's Bankai? Do you think it's something along the lines of what I'm talking about, or do you have a completely different idea? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've got a what if to do, and I'm actually going to pre-record my what if for tomorrow, because it's the week of what ifs coming up. So keep your eyes out for that. Obviously, hit the bell if you want to be notified of when these videos come up. I got to get used to saying that part. I can almost do my normal spiels, like, comment, share, subscribe, ideas for who would win, all that. I can do that off the top of my head, no problem. Remembering to say hit the bell, that's something I got to get used to. Until then, later, folks.